Hare Krishna, everyone. Good evening to all of you. So today is a very special day. It is the disappearance of His Divine Grace SrilaBhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura, Prabhupada. And SrilaBhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura, Prabhupada, he is the guru of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder, Acharya of the Harekrishna movement, so Srila Prabhupada's guru. And if you see here on the altar, in the middle altar, there's a set of 5 personalities pictures there. And one of the pictures, you'll see that there's a garland around. So that's BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura. For those of you who aren't familiar, for those who are familiar, you know what we're talking. You know who we're talking about. So it's the disappearance day today, which means it's the day he left the world. And some people, they may wonder, why would you celebrate the disappearance of somebody? Usually you celebrate the birthday, right? Everybody celebrates the birthday. Right? Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. It's going to be Dravida Prabhu's 70, right? Second? you know, something like that. 71, 72, 73. Soon, this month. So, anyways, we don't want to. So usually you celebrate the appearance or the birthday, not the disappearance or the day they leave the world. But within Vaishnava tradition, the idea is that the appearance or the disappearance of a great personality or great devotee is just as good, because they're considered to be like the sun. And everybody loves seeing the sun set, right? Very beautiful. Everybody goes out and looks, right? They take pictures, and they take pictures of themselves and their family and friends and so on. And similarly, the rising of the sun is very beautiful. So the rising of the sun is like the appearance or the birthday, and the setting of the sun is like the disappearance. It's also beautiful. But of course, there's mixed feelings there of sadness as well. So today is the day of his disappearance. So what I thought we could do is we could read from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text 2. And then we could relate the verse to him. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 2, chapters entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Evam parampara praptam emam raja shayo viduhu sakalenaha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Okay, so this is the translation. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood in that way. But in course of time, this succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Purport. It is clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certainly Bhagavad Gita was never meant for demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. Like, sometimes there was some personality and they said that playing football was, you could get closer to heaven playing football than reading the Gita. Yeah. It's probably soccer, because they happen to be Indian. Probably soccer. But whether it was soccer, American soccer, or football, American football, it's a strange concept. And interesting enough is that a lot of spiritual personalities or spiritual teachers, they propound such ideas, although they're very, very strange. And still, a lot of those spiritual teachers are respected all over the world and praised. So therefore, it's important that people very carefully analyze what people stand for before they worship them. Because at least within Vedic culture, Indian culture, whatever, however you want to say it, there's this culture of guru worship, which is good. It's good to have a guru. But before you get the picture of guru and put it on your altar and start offering incense, you should know exactly what that particular guru stands for, because they may stand for something really weird or strange that you don't know about. Like Mukunda Charna Prabhu gave... okay, thank you. Mukunda Charna Prabhu gave a talk. So before we continue, I'll just say a prayer offering respects to my spiritual teachers. Om Jnanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Katitvachalam Pangam Langate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diditaranam Vancha Koptribhishta Kripasundavevicha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So Mukunda Charna Prabhu, one of our brahmacharis, he'll give a class next week, the Sunday Feast talk next week. But he was giving a talk at the Krishna Lounge, and he was bringing up speaking on one spiritual teacher, which we're not going to get into details right now, but modern fellow. And he quoted this person, and the quote was just unbelievable, unbelievably arrogant. He was saying, yeah, if Buddha turns over his grave and he comes and meets me, and if God himself comes down, and I still won't listen to them, because I know best. I mean, he literally said that. I know best. I know better than God, better than Buddha, and all these things. So he may stand for many things that any rational or spiritual person may stand for. In other words, he has partial knowledge, but he's lacking in complete knowledge, and that is dangerous. And aside from lacking in complete knowledge, not just he has partial knowledge and he's innocent, but he has partial knowledge and he's propounding all types of weird ideas that people are following. So we have to be careful who we put on the altar, who we worship. So this is what Prabhupada's talking about here. Demoniac persons who dissipate its value, the Bhagavad Gita's value, for no one's benefit, and would devise all types of interpretation according to their personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to reestablish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment also there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to the authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demonic, because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara, disciplic succession system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity. But if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it is simply a waste of time. Jai, that ends the purport. So also it's a special day because we will be having a wonderful drama, wonderful play by children. See all these nice lights here? These are for the drama. This here, this. So we're going to be ending the talk early. So again, yes, it's the disappearance of BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura. And here in this particular verse, Krishna is saying how there is you could say a worry or a fact that over time things become lost, traditions become lost, knowledge becomes lost, so many things become lost. Everything becomes lost practically. The whole world becomes lost. Eventually it just dissolves away. So this is the worry or the fear of the fact that's being brought up here. Before we continue, Ujeshwar, I'm sorry to ask, but do you think you could move the curtains here so they're not? It's kind of. Thank you. So this point was also brought up in Srila Prabhupada's time, that some people were asking him in India, your movement is very strong now. You have all these American, and mostly at that time it was American and European followers, disciples, and the movement is going very strong. But what happens when you leave? Because sometimes after the leader leaves the movement, leaves this world, the movement just falls apart. It doesn't continue, or it goes on in a very weak way, or sometimes completely is destroyed. Like I went to SDSU, not as a student there, but we went there one day to pass out Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita to some department head there, guy. So he studied all types of religious movements, and there was a particular movement that I didn't really get too much into it, but it was some type of mystical meditation type of movement, and it was quite big here in SanDiego. They had a big mansion, and a lot of people were coming, and followers, this, that, and so many things. And they had a few places around America, but it completely died out. They lost the mansion, they lost the followers, lost everything. And it was just it was like a historical amusement or something. Here are the pictures, here's the mansion, here's the leader, and what's happening now? Nothing. The movement died. So there's so many movements like that. Now, Srila Prabhupada started the Harekrishna movement about 50 years ago. And it's increasing all over the world. Temples are being built all over the world, and it's going on. But again, going back is that people were asking him that it's going strong now, but what about when you leave? And Srila Prabhupada said, it will go on as long as my followers follow my instructions. It will go on. So he absolutely left it to his followers to continue it. And Srila Prabhupada's direct disciples have been doing that for so many years, and now grand disciples or grand disciples are been helping out for so many years. So within history, or within the last few hundred years, a very, you could say, Vaishnavism or Hare Krishna I say Hare Krishnaism, Vaishnavism, it was just completely, practically lost. It was in India, and the Vaishnavas, or the followers of Krishna, the worshippers of Krishna, they were considered just to be low-class, unsophisticated, whatever you want to say, despicable people even. And there wasn't so many of them. So in other words, certain people who latched on to Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, and specifically who latched on to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, who's Krishna come again 500 years ago, they gave Vaishnavism a bad name. Practically no one respected it. No educated person respected it. And Srila Prabhupada's guru's father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he couldn't even find a Chaitanya Charitamrita, which Chaitanya Charitamrita is 9-volume biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna come again 500 years ago. Very important book for the Hare Krishna movement. He couldn't even find one of those. Nowadays we have the 9-volume set, and we print thousands of them and distribute them all over the world. But can you imagine? He couldn't even find one. Hard time finding one. But he found it. And through his great endeavor and struggle and writings and preachings and teachings, he tried to give Vaishnavism a good name, which he was very successful doing. But specifically, he wanted help. And therefore, he was a householder. He was a married man. He had a wife. And eventually, I think he had about 10 children. 10? Yes, 10 children. So he wanted help. So therefore, he prayed to Krishna. And he said he was praying for a ray of Vishnu, or you could say a ray of Krishna, or a ray of God. In other words, praying for a servant of God to take birth to help him in his mission. And that was SrilaBhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura, Srila Prabhupada's guru. And interesting enough, we have 2 devotees within the Hare Krishna movement. They're 2 gurus. We have Bhakti Sundar Swami. So his mother, apparently she tried to give birth to a few children, but it wasn't successful. Miscarriages. So she was praying to God that, God, just give me one son, and I'll dedicate him fully to your service. He'll be a priest. And so then, sure enough, she had a son. And she would dress the son for like a few years as a priest, and like a Catholic priest, and I'm going to dedicate him to God. So then he grew up to be a teenager in his early 20s, and then he met Srila Prabhupada, and he joined the Hare Krishna movement in Venezuela. So then his mother was really upset, and she said, "Oh, how could you do this and this and that?" And he said, "Mom, you said that you're praying for a son that would become dedicated to God, and I'm an answer to your prayer." And then she was saying, no, not the Hindu God, the Christian God, Not Krishna, but, the Christian idea of God. So, and he was saying, Mom, you got to be more specific, So, same with Devamrita Swami, actually. His mother said she was praying for like a servant of God. And then, so he, joined the Hare Krishna movement in his early years, and later his mother wasn't liking that so much, or in the beginning she wasn't liking that so much, and she told him that, "Oh, I was praying for a servant of God," and then similar thing. He said, "Well, I'm trying to be a servant of God," and then again it was a similar thing, the Christian God, so. So that's a side point. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed, and BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura came. He took birth. So of course, you could speak on hours. I could speak, or someone could speak on hours about BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura. and there's volumes of books written about him and lectures given about him, but we don't have so much time, so we're not going to do that. We're going to be ending very soon here. But he had he was a very exceptional personality, extremely exceptional personality, genius, materially, spiritually. And specifically amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, he is accepted as a personality coming directly from the spiritual world, coming to teach spiritual knowledge and to help people become Krishna conscious. Very important personality. So, and he displayed that from his early days, his young, as a young boy. So then later on in his life, he made a vow. And his vow was he was going to chant 1 billion names of Krishna. So that's a lot of names. That means practically you're chanting all day and all night for about 9 to 10 years. So that's what he did. That was his vow. And he had a hut in Mayapur, West Bengal. He had a hut. And he would sit there and chant on his beads, Hare Krishna, practically day and night, eating very little, sleeping very little. And if the rain would come, he'd have an umbrella, and he'd just be chanting, chanting, chanting. So he completed that vow, 9 to 10 year vow. And then he made his way to Calcutta, which is close by. So in Calcutta, that's where he met Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, he wasn't very, at the time, he wasn't very fond of meeting all these types of sadhus or saintly persons. And the reason being is because he himself, was a Vaishnava, he saw their cheating mentality and how in so many ways they weren't for real. But although that was the case, his friend, Narendra Mullik, pushed him to go. So they both went there. 2 young men, Srila Prabhupada, Narendra Mullik. So they went there to the Gaudiya Math, the Altadanga, there in Kolkata. And they went upstairs to the balcony, and there SrilaBhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura was there talking with some of his followers and some of his disciples and his group there. And BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura, as you see the picture of him, he's very tall, thin, handsome Vaishnava, sannyasi. Very powerful personality, lifelong brahmacharya, lifelong celibate. So he was there, and Srila Prabhupada and Narendra Mullik walked in, and they offered obeisances, which is the tradition, offer obeisances to sannyasis or monks or saintly people. So they offered obeisances, and then when they're getting up, Srila BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura told them that you two are young, educated men. Why don't you spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, all over the world? So Srila Prabhupada was very, very surprised by that, because he was thinking, I didn't even introduce myself to this person, and he's telling me to go all over the world and spread Krishna consciousness. And at the time, India was under rule of British, the British rule. In other words, another nation was controlling India. So Srila Prabhupada was part of Mahatma Gandhi's movement, which was trying to free India. So Srila Prabhupada was saying that first and foremost we need to become an independent country, and then we could think about spreading Krishna consciousness. But BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura and so many arguments and logic and reason completely defeated that idea and said it's the most important thing to spread Krishna consciousness now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to wait to become Krishna conscious, and you don't have to wait to spread Krishna consciousness. It's very important, urgent. So he convinced him like that. And he wasn't, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wasn't just trying to send Srila Prabhupada around the world to spread Krishna consciousness, he was encouraging his other disciples as well. And in fact, a few of his disciples went to London, and they had some success there, met some lords and ladies, and had some success there. But it wasn't, you could say, like a supreme success. But interesting enough is that once some of these personalities, disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, came back from London to India, they were having a big meeting there. There's a bunch of monks, brahmacharis, and sannyasis, and householders, families, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was addressing all of them. It was like a talk. He was addressing them, and he was saying that I predict that one of my disciples, and specifically he was looking out of the crowd like this. Somebody gave this remembrance. He said that he saw this happening. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was looking through the audience, and this person was remembering that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was looking in the direction of him, and then he was saying that I have a prediction that one of my disciples will cross the ocean and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world and bring everyone back to India. So, and then this person said that he was looking at Srila Prabhupada when he was saying that. So he knew that Srila Prabhupada was going to do that. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had these powers, mystic powers, to actually see into the future. So he knew that Srila Prabhupada was going to do that, and he empowered him to do that. And it's interesting because, and of course, we all, for the most part, know the story, how Srila Prabhupada came to America and spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world after America. But it's interesting because just these few words from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur completely changed the course of human history. So you can imagine the power of words, or we know the power of words. Just these few words. You seem like you two are young, educated men. Why don't you spread the message of Sri Krishna Chaitanya all over the world? Just a few words. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada didn't really meet with his guru that much. He met with him about 12 times in the course of 12 years, something like that. And they would meet and speak, and they exchanged some letters, but it wasn't like he didn't have a lot of association with him personally, you could say. So yeah, it's a special day, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for anybody who is a member of the Hare Krishna movement, they should really appreciate and meditate and pray and, get to know Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a very important personality. And in relation to this verse, the devotee and Krishna, their interests are the same. So Krishna has the interest to give people knowledge and to help them, elevate themselves. So similarly, the devotees also have that same goal in mind. So that was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's whole life, how to give Krishna consciousness to others. And an important thing to note for all of us is that things have a tendency to become lost. Knowledge, culture, etc. Money. So, but anyways. But specifically referring to culture and knowledge, it is really important that we try to preserve the culture of Krishna consciousness for those who are engaged in it, for those who are, you could say, intimate members of the Hare Krishna movement. that there's cultural standards, there's knowledge that needs to be preserved, and specifically the whole point of this knowledge is for it to be distributed wide scale. So, okay, Hare Krishna. So we'll stop there. Does anybody have a question or a comment or anything you'd like to say about anything I said? How did I get to be so humble? Well, I'm not, so I can't tell you. All right, so what about Adriana? You always have a question. You finally don't have a question this time, huh? What would I say BhaktisiddhantaSarasvatiThakura's greatest teaching? Wow, that's quite a question. I might have to think about that for a while. Because, well, what I can tell you is that I could tell you one of his favorite verses. And I know the Sanskrit too, so I don't know so many verses, but I happen to know this one. So it's Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Naba Vedgram Indriyai Sevan Mukhe Jivada Swayameva Spratada. So it means that these material, or the material blunt senses, means the senses, cannot perceive Krishna's name, his form, his qualities, cannot perceive the personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But by engaging the same senses, beginning with the tongue, and taking prasadam, food offered to Krishna, and chanting Hare Krishna, the senses become purified, or spiritualized, or as Srila Prabhupada coined the term, I believe, Krishnized. Yeah, they become Krishnized, the senses. And it says that Krishna reveals himself. So it's a revelatory process. Krishna reveals himself, provided the individual follows the process. So, you know, there's people that say, show me God, show me God, right? Okay, fine, but there's a process to see God. Are you willing to accept it? And they say, no. I say, okay, fine, we can't see God then. So, we could see God, anybody could see God, anybody could see Krishna. Krishna could reveal himself to anyone, provided that process is followed. So that was one of his favorite verses. So at least I could say that. And later I'll think more about his most important instruction. So I'll have to think about that for a while. All right, so now we will move on to the most important part of this program, which is the children's play. They worked really hard for many days and nights and weekends and weeks, so please give them your full attention, which I don't think will be very difficult, because usually people don't have a hard time giving children attention. So, okay, Hare Krishna.